So, a healthy detox process can help the body in so many ways.
We've got this toxic load, which is really what we're exposed to. And it can be an exposure from everywhere. We kind of call it the exposome, right? Right. But the
That
bottom line is this toxic load builds up in us. And so our job is to perhaps be aware of that and lessen the load.
when we put somebody through a quiz, we're actually looking at oftentimes the state of readiness. So one person might be able to only take one step towards the mailbox in a day. Another person might be able to walk to the mailbox and back.
That jurisdiction of the sheriff is really the most powerful guard and protector of the rights of the people than any other institution our founders created.
Around this time of the year, when the new year starts, a lot of people start trying to clean house, especially this thing called the internal house, cellular detoxification. What are some of the really important reasons why a person should do a detox?
Well, I think we go back to the idea of what is detox and why do we have it? It's a system that obviously is put into us for a reason, meaning that we are going to be exposed to either toxins that are produced inside, there is, and some that we might be exposed to from the outside. Medically speaking, those would be called endogenous or exogenous toxins. And the body is going to try to sort of convert those things into a form that can be eliminated or excreted in the body. And so this system is really important. And I think the more we're exposed to toxins in the world, which is really, just by living in the world we live in, there's chemicals in the air we breathe and chemicals in the clothes we wear, and there's toxins in food, there's toxins in water, and we're exposed to it all the time. So it is really important to make sure that system is working well.
Yeah, I'm really, really fascinated by anatomy and physiology, especially the liver, and it's over
Oh,
500 metabolic functions. We know that phase one and phase two actually occur in the liver, and part of going through a good detox
yeah.
supports phase one and phase two in the liver so that it can actually be moved into the kidneys so you can eliminate it either through the urine or the feces. So, a healthy detox process can help the body in so many ways. Number one, by offloading that pollution or that toxic load in the liver.
Yeah, there's a little formula that we've used a lot of times in teaching people this idea. And so here it is. We've got this toxic load, which is really what we're exposed to. And it can be an exposure from everywhere. We kind of call it the exposome, right? Right. But the
That
bottom line is this toxic load builds up in us. And so our job is to perhaps be aware of that and lessen the load, right? It makes sense. And so we have the toxic load, and then we have to improve the ability to clear or a clearance. And that means that can we improve clearance by making sure that our cells of our immune system and our cells of our detox system are healthy? And can we have enough water to make our system really eliminate these things? So it's toxic load minus your ability to clear equates or equals to your toxic burden, which obviously less burden on the body from a toxic load is better. So that formula is really something that we need to be thinking about all the time.
Well, so that would really be a reason to go through a detox. Of course, if you take off the toxic burden, it decreases the load on the system. And if
Mhm.
you decrease the load, of course, there's going to be a lot of really good outcome. We're going to have a change in body composition.
Yeah.
Perhaps we're going to lose a little bit of that extra weight that we don't like have hanging around. We're going to see mental energy clear up because you're decreasing the toxic burden. Boy, oh boy, brain cells actually can improve in their function and their ability to work and do better by ourselves. When we take off the toxic load in the system with all the standard American additives, preservatives, all those metabolic waste products, of course, digestion is going to
Mhm.
improve. And at the end of the day, think about taking off the burden. We're going to take that burden off the joints. We decrease the load, the joints get better. And there's a sundry other important things that can happen if we go through a good detox.
Well, there is. And I think people need to understand that if toxins don't get cleared, they get stored in the fat tissue. Now that's a big deal, pun intended, big deal, when you're talking about the obesity
That is a
crisis
big
it
deal.
is. And also people that have like brain fog and things like that, the brain is mostly an organ of fat. And so, like
So it makes sense that toxins would be stored there.
that's right. So we see the toxic burden build up within the storage capacity of the human body. So that's why when we talk about body composition, lowering fat, we're really talking about improving the detox pathways as well, because we're like, to kind of steal a line from the Motel 6, Tom Bodette, we're leaving the lights on for you, man. I want to tear the hotel down. I don't want to have extra storage for those toxins because we're going to be exposed to them. And so keep in mind too, that when we get the toxic burden built up in us, that equates to overextension of our chronic inflammatory system. So overloaded toxins equals chronic systemic inflammation. So every
Which,
part of
yes,
disease. That's
it
right.
is the precursor to all chronic sickness and disease. And of course, when we have that inflammatory food coming in, it's going to unstabilize our blood sugars. We're
Yeah.
going to have more cravings, more mood instability. So going through a good detox can stabilize blood sugars, stabilize mood, and give people a better outlook on life, better motivation, better desire to go to the gym, more of a desire to continue to eat in a healthy manner so that we can preserve this temple that we live in. What is one of the most favorite detox processes that you like to recommend?
Well, I like the one, just again, my preference. I like the Biotics NutriClear.
I would
It's a
second that.
15
Why?
day, pretty easy to do. It's a couple shakes a day. It's got the pill packs with it. Really, you're able to reduce the cost per meal of a day to $4 per meal. So
Wait,
that
say that again?
you're able to reduce the cost for 2 meals a day to $4 each by doing that detox, because it takes care of two. And sometimes people don't eat that third meal. So that's all in a box detox. And we do that like 3 times a year. But that's one of the ones that's really easy to kind of do. And usually at the first of the year sometime, and then about mid-year, and then about in the fall is good times people could do that. I recommended it 3 or 4 times a year.
Well, and we do find that when we run genetics, that oftentimes people have weak detox systems,
Yeah.
enzymatic systems. So doing a detox can buff up that system and help that individual that might be compromised in areas that they don't even know about.
Well, there's no question. I mean, we know that the toxins are not going to go down as far as volume these days. Our job then is to improve our own system. That's why doing a structured detox is really important to do, and kind of understanding, if you will, kind of what we're talking about with this and how the system works. You can't just take a pill and expect the whole system to respond. You got to overhaul the whole system, and that's really the point we're talking about. So, questions about detox, we get hit with those all the time, but hopefully this will help you a little bit and give you some information to help you better detox every day.
When it comes to checking boxes, are health quizzes really beneficial?
You might just be surprised at the answer. Stay tuned.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does 2 things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
There's a lot of talk these days about human enhancement.
Terms like biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, and anti-fragility.
In our clinic, the Functional Medical Institute, we've been helping people of all shapes, sizes, and backgrounds improve their quality of their physiology and maximize their lives.
So, you can follow the latest fads and gimmicks and maybe find some things that work for you.
Or you can add Kingdom Fuel to your daily regimen right now.
It's the simple start to a transformed life.
Our unique meal shakes are balanced, Low glycemic, rich in fiber with 20 grams of clean protein, essential vitamins and minerals, healthy fats, and organic fruits and vegetables. Kingdom Fuel is vegan with a complete amino acid profile.
No gimmicks, just proven results.
Start today at sherwood.tv/fuel.
Hey there, Kevin Sorbo here. Now, deep down, we know this. We're more than just a brain and a body. We're a spirit, we're a soul, and we're also a physical temple. If you hit the wall when you're trying to improve one aspect of your being, it's probably because, well, other aspects are sabotaging our success. So that's why diets don't work. And frankly, why so much conventional wisdom from our so-called medical establishments falls flat. Doctors Michele and Mark Sherwood have a very different approach. I should know because I happen to be one of their patients. They address the whole person to get to know you, your challenges, and more importantly, what your goals are. Then they offer a complete plan that addresses your unique biology and your heart. They'll help you discover what you need to experience transformation. So find out more at sherwood.tv/sorbo. That's sherwood.tv/sorbo, or see the link before. Now, I'm heading for a workout. You should be going for a workout too. All right, guys. God bless.
After we interview individuals, they've gone from place to place, clinic to clinic. They've gone internet to website to internet website. And we'll always ask them about the quizzes that they take. What has been helpful? Are they helpful? Or are they basically just a wash?
Well, I think the answer is probably all the above. I mean, let's be honest. We have a quiz on our website that pops up when people visit, Sherwood.tv, for example, or a clinic. And we want to know kind of where people are, and perhaps they want to know where they are. So a quiz can kind of help. And in our case, we use that as a way to sort of direct them to an area that we feel like we can help them best. But the other side of the thing is that a lot of times they're used simply as lead generators to get product sales. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what people do. But I think that there's more to it than that, because a quiz, what is it? It's a questionnaire that's asking various opinions of self, or maybe what is perhaps holding you back from losing weight, for example, or maybe what are some successes and failures you've had. They're good, but you still got to figure out a way to work through that process to sort of solve the equation. So a quiz is sort of a one-step thing, but I think it takes more.
Well, and from our perspective, when we put somebody through a quiz, we're actually looking at oftentimes the state of readiness. One person might be able to only take one step towards the mailbox in a day. Another person might be able to walk to the mailbox and back based on maybe their fitness goals or even their nutritional goals. We need to know where they are so we can meet them in their state of readiness. So by asking certain questions about where are you with your health? What is your experience with your health? What are your failures? What are your successes? Oftentimes that helps us really hone in on a personalized plan for the individual that's actually coming to us for care.
It does, and I think people need to understand about the majority of the quizzes out there, and people can know what I'm talking about. They will have sort of this scale of 1 to 5 or whatever. Then there is a weight or an average that's put on that thing based upon the numerical value you pick. So it's not like the person is typing a narrative to an open-ended question, but they're typing an opinion of themselves based upon a closed-ended question. And I think that that's why you need more, because like in our questionnaire, we have a quiz, but we also have a questionnaire. The questionnaire gives open-ended opportunities for a person to answer, such as, what are your goals? I want to know that. How long does it take you to complete a meal? How often do you exercise? How often do you drink? I want to know what they put. And sometimes if you don't give them an opportunity to go 1 through 5, you might get the answer, but it makes them think more. Now, you can't do that with the verbalization of those things on a automation system. You can't. There's no way to put an algorithm behind it. So I just think you need both. because truly to personalize the information you get from a quiz, you have to have some personal answers behind that. And so I'm not knocking quizzes. I think they're pretty darn good because it can assess a lot of pieces of valuable information, but I still think there's more we need.
Yeah, well, I mean, just if you're quizzing somebody on their experience, let's just take weight loss, for example. A lot of individuals, specifically women, have injury around this term weight loss, or they have a poor self image, poor body image, and
Mm,
they don't necessarily want to be transparent with just a quiz online.
yeah.
But it's important to find out, where they stand with their state of readiness in walking down a pathway of true healing so that we can actually get them to the next step. A lot of times we find that it's not really about weight loss. It's about finding a relationship or peace with food. How do we really understand what's on our plate and have a relationship with what's on the plate and how it nourishes our body versus, oh, it's time for dinner, it's time for lunch, it's time for a snack. We literally have to start thinking about food as healing and having a relationship with it.
Yeah.
And if our relationship with it is toxic and we don't really understand that, of course, we're not going to have peace with food and be able to have long-term weight loss.
Well, I think without question, this is my strong opinion. I think that America's relationship with food is completely over toxic. It's ridiculous. And I think America's obsession with weight is a toxic relationship too. BMI, for example, is it great for measuring maybe a population to get an assessment of where this population might be regarding the state of overweightness? Perhaps. But it's a terrible measurement for an individual. Terrible. I mean, you, as tiny as you are overweight on
That's
the
right.
BMI.
Hey,
And to me, I'm
obese,
sitting here
morbidly
and
obese.
I'm obese on the BMI. It really should be about the personalized factor called percentage of body fat. And we've said this before. We want our ladies to somewhere between 18 and 26%, men somewhere between about 10 and maybe 16%. Good place to be. But ultimately, a quiz can't do that, and a scale can't do that. And that's why we've got to get away from these ridiculous ideas that say that if we eat less calories and all this mess. It's not that simple because, as you mentioned, the toxic relationship people have with food.
Well, oftentimes people have a toxic relationship with the gym. They don't want to get in there because they don't feel good about themselves. So another way
Mhm.
that we can use questionnaires or questioning people is to find out what their opinion or their perspective or perception
Mhm.
of physical fitness is, where they are, where do we start with them, how do we guide them. So quizzes and questionnaires can be very valuable in finding out the baseline of where someone is starting.
Yeah, and I really hope that people really will do the quiz and questionnaire that we have because it's there to help you. It's there to guide you down a pathway. So when that pops up, don't just scroll by it. Do it. But is it everything you need? No,
No.
but it gives you a start. So, that's what we think about quizzes. And so, be a little cautious out there and know what you're filling out. What does our Constitution really mean? Find out next with our constitutional attorney expert, Chris Ann Hall.
Let's get real. Most emergency food is just as bad for you as any other choice in the standard American diet. And that's just sad.
We don't just need food. We need highly nutritional food.
We don't just want to survive food shortages, we are meant to thrive in adversity.
Complete your daily nutrition and have shelf-stable Kingdom Fuel as a cornerstone of your food supply.
Don't sacrifice your health or your taste buds.
Stock up on Kingdom Fuel now.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms. They're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
We have a brand new documentary out called Non-Compliant to the Sheriff. Now, our first documentary, Non-Compliant, and our second documentary, Non-Compliant 2, are both available at noncompliantmovie.com. The first documentary is all about the duty and the role of the state to be a check and balance on the federal government, state and local government. So if you haven't seen that yet, let me please recommend that you go to noncompliantmovie.com and watch the first documentary, available to you at no cost. It is going to be life-changing, and we have hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews and people all over the world sending us messages about how this message is so life-changing. And it's a global message because, really, it's about your inherent rights. It's about why government is designed for one purpose. The purpose is to secure your rights, and how our founders put together our governments in order to retain the power by the people to be a check and balance on government through state and local government. And from that, we were inspired to create Non-Compliant to the Sheriff. Now, I have been for nearly a decade, traveling around the country teaching sheriffs and deputies a 3-hour continuing education course, all about the role and the duty of the sheriff, the history of the sheriff's role and duty to secure our rights, not to violate them. We have a whole section on the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, what our sheriffs and their deputies need to know not to be sued. And then we have a section on the jurisdiction of the sheriff, which is so incredibly important. That jurisdiction of the sheriff is really the most powerful guard and protector of the rights of the people than any other institution our founders created here in these United States of America through our constitutional republic. And it's from that course that I had sheriffs telling me, this is inspirational. What you've taught us in these 3 hours is just simply life-changing. As a matter of fact, I've taught this at big conferences where I taught the sheriffs of 17 states all at one time. And I had sheriffs coming up to me immediately before I even got off the stage saying, I've been on the phone changing policies already based on what we learned from you. And we thought to ourselves, you know what? We need the people to know this information. We need the people to know this, number one, so that they can make sure the candidates they have for sheriff know the proper role and duty of the sheriff, so we can be sure to have constitutionally minded sheriffs. Number two, because if you have a constitutional sheriff, if the body of the people are not in support of that sheriff cannot be who they want to be and who they're required to be. And number three, it empowers sheriffs who already have that inclination. In a world that is full of propaganda like defund the police and all of our law enforcement is evil. You see it all over the news. You see wicked politicians propagating this stuff. We knew we had to create Non-Compliant to the Sheriff to show people what's really happening at the level of the sheriff that the media will not show you. There are sheriffs all over America who are standing up in defiance of unconstitutional laws and orders and edicts, in defense of the property rights of the people, and they've been doing this for years. But the politicians and the media do not want you to know this. They do not want you to know what sheriffs are doing successfully, regularly, to stand for people's rights, because this is how government's supposed to really, really work. Now, what we do with non-compliant 2 is we take 2 real-life situations, 2 events that actually happened. A pastor who refused to shut down his church over COVID, and a sheriff who arrested him for it. And a pastor who refused to shut down for COVID, and a sheriff who said, I'll go to jail to keep you open. And how this 2 incidents actually impacted and changed their states, and even all of these United States, all boiled down to what a sheriff would or would not do. This film is brand new, available at noncompliantmovie.com only right now. Pretty soon we're going to make it available on DVD, so maybe by the time you see this, it will be available on DVD at noncompliantmovie.com. But we're already getting messages about how this is life-changing. And to be honest, if you share this with your sheriff might be one who has watched this movie and come back to us and asked us to come and train their deputies. Noncompliantmovie.com. It will be life-changing.
Hey there, Kevin Sorbo here. Now, deep down, we know this. We're more than just a brain and a body. We're a spirit, we're a soul, and we're also a physical temple. If you hit the wall when you're trying to improve one aspect of your being, it's probably because, well, other aspects are sabotaging our success. So that's why diets don't work. And frankly, why so much conventional wisdom from our so-called medical establishments falls flat. Doctors Michele and Mark Sherwood have a very different approach. I should know because I happen to be one of their patients. They address the whole person to get to know you, your challenges, and more importantly, what your goals are. Then they offer a complete plan that addresses your unique biology and your heart. They'll help you discover what you need to experience transformation. So find out more at sherwood.tv/sorbo. That's sherwood.tv/sorbo, or see the link before. Now I'm heading for a workout. You should be going for a workout too. All right, guys. God bless.
Exploring biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, or anti-fragility?
Start here. No gimmicks, just proven results.